Welcome to Stamps Old World UK, your ultimate destination for discovering the true value and hidden history behind rare, old, and collectible stamps from around the world. In today's video, we're diving deep into the legacy and market value of one of the most iconic postage stamps in American history, the 1-cent green Benjamin Franklin stamp. This timeless piece of philatelic art has intrigued collectors for over a century, not just for its beauty and design, but for the stories it carries and the surprising value it can hold in today's stamp market. So, if you've ever come across this green stamp with Benjamin Franklin's profile and wondered whether it's just a common old stamp or a hidden treasure worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, you've come to the right place. In this video, we'll explore its origins, variations, collectible features, and how much it's worth today in dollars. Get ready for a detailed journey through the past and into the current stamp market, only here on Stamps Old World UK. The 1-cent green Benjamin Franklin stamp was originally introduced as part of a long-running series of definitive stamps known as the Washington Franklin issues, which were produced by the United States Post Office between 1908 and 1922. The design features a beautifully engraved portrait of Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the United States, framed within an elegant oval and accompanied by rich scroll work on either side. Printed in a bold green color, this stamp was used for basic mailing services across the country during a time when the U.S. was rapidly expanding its postal network. But while millions of these stamps were printed and circulated, only a fraction of them survived in collectible condition. Over time, different printing methods, watermarks, paper types, and perforation styles were used, creating dozens of subtle but highly important variations. For collectors, these differences can mean the value of a stamp might be just a few cents, or skyrocket into the thousands of dollars. Let's talk about condition. When it comes to evaluating the value of the 1-cent green Franklin stamp in today's market, the condition of the stamp is one of the most important factors. A used version with cancellation marks and minor damage might only be worth between $1 and $5. However, a mint condition stamp, which has never been used and still retains its original gum on the back, could be valued anywhere from $25 to $150, depending on the issue and centering. Centering refers to how well the image of Franklin is placed within the borders. Perfectly centered stamps are far more desirable and rare. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Some variations of this stamp, especially those printed on bluish paper, or those with inverted watermarks or rare coil perforations, have been sold at auctions for over $2,000 to $4,000. These rare errors and production anomalies are what drive the highest values, and they are actively sought after by elite collectors and investors alike. In today's modern collecting world, the market for rare and vintage stamps is stronger than ever. Auction houses, online marketplaces like eBay, Hipstamp, and Delcamp, and specialized philatelic dealers all report steady interest in classic U.S. stamps. The 1-cent green Franklin remains a popular entry point for beginner collectors while also presenting advanced collectors with exciting challenges in identifying the rare varieties. The value of this stamp is not just tied to its physical state, it is also tied to its historical context, its rarity, and its certification status. If you believe you own a valuable variety of the Franklin 1-cent, it is highly recommended to get it authenticated by trusted institutions such as the Philatelic Foundation, Professional Stamp Experts, PSE, or the American Philatelic Society. A certificate of authenticity from one of these organizations can dramatically increase the sale price and credibility of your stamp in the global collector market. Now, let's walk through some of the key variations that can greatly affect the value of your 1-cent Franklin stamp. For example, one of the rarest types is the 1910 issue printed on bluish paper, which was created as part of an experimental series. Only a limited number were printed, and even fewer remain in pristine condition today. These are known to fetch upwards of $3,000 to $5,000 depending on the grade. Another important distinction is the perforation type. Stamps from this series came in several different perforation gauges, and having a perforation gauge tool at home can help you identify if yours is a rare type. There are also coil stamps, which were made for stamp vending machines and appear in strips. Coil versions of the Franklin 1-cent are much scarcer, and some of them with intact pairs or line pairs are considered valuable collector's pieces. Another big factor that affects stamp value is the presence of printing errors. For instance, some stamps might show double impressions, color shifts, or even misaligned perforations, all of which can significantly increase their worth. There are even documented examples of inverted watermarks, which are rare and incredibly valuable. These rare errors often don't show up in casual collections and can take years to find, but when discovered, they often lead to major profit. In fact, Expert collectors sometimes pay thousands just for the opportunity to bid on an authentic era version of this otherwise common-looking stamp. If you're holding on to a Franklin 1-cent green stamp today and wondering how to sell it, here are some useful tips. First, make sure you have high-quality scans of the front and back. Highlight any key features like color tone, watermark, perforation, and gum presence. Then, consider listing your stamp on well-known auction platforms or reach out to specialized stamp dealers. Even better, if you suspect it's a rare variation, invest in a certificate of authenticity first. This will pay off in the long run. At Stamps Old World UK, we always encourage our viewers to approach stamp collecting not just as a hobby, but as a long-term investment. Every stamp has a story, and when properly researched, those stories can turn into real market value. In 2025, the world of stamp collecting is still alive and thriving, thanks to digital platforms and online communities that make it easier than ever to connect with buyers and sellers. Whether you're collecting for passion, profit, or both, the Franklin 1-cent green stamp remains a classic and essential piece of philatelic history. It's more than just a stamp, it's a symbol of a bygone era, a tribute to American heritage, and for some collectors, a gateway to unlocking serious value. Keep in mind that stamp prices fluctuate based on demand, auction activity, and general economic conditions, so staying updated with catalogs like Scott's Specialized Catalog or subscribing to market newsletters is always a smart move. Next up, the 1-cent George Washington U.S. postage stamp. This small green stamp may look simple at first glance, but within its borders lies a deep and captivating story of American history, presidential legacy, and remarkable collectible value. If you've ever found this stamp in an old album, drawer, or inherited collection, you might be sitting on something more valuable than you realize. Whether you're a seasoned philatelist or just beginning your journey into the world of stamps, this video is packed with everything you need to know about the George Washington 1-cent stamp and its current market value in dollars today. So sit back and prepare for a full-length, in-depth guide brought to you by Stamps Old World UK. The 1-cent Washington stamp, like many other early American postage stamps, was not just a means of sending mail, it was a powerful national symbol. This particular design, featuring the first president of the United States, George Washington, was issued in various forms and styles throughout the early to mid-20th century. The image we focus on today most closely resembles the issues from the 1930s and 1940s, part of the presidential series, often referred to by collectors as the Prexes. This series was one of the most widely circulated and recognized stamp issues in American postal history. George Washington's dignified image appears in a classic engraved style, and the deep green color was chosen to distinguish the 1-cent denomination. This stamp saw use during a period of intense historical change, through the Great Depression, World War II, and the beginning of modern America, which adds a powerful historic value to this already iconic piece. In today's stamp collecting world, the market value of a stamp like the 1-cent Washington varies greatly depending on several key factors: condition, centering, perforation, cancellation marks, color variations, paper type, and potential printing errors. A very common, heavily used version of this stamp may only be worth a few cents, perhaps between 5 cents to $1 in a bulk collection. However, unused stamps with original gum, no hinges, and excellent centering can fetch up to $10 to $50 in today's market. And that's just the beginning. Some rare versions, particularly coil stamps, imperfect pairs, or stamps with printing errors like color shifts or miscuts, have sold for hundreds of dollars at auction. What appears to be a simple, common stamp might just be a hidden rarity when you examine the finer details. And that's exactly why identifying your specific version is critical before selling or appraising your stamp. So what makes certain Washington 1-cent stamps worth significantly more than others? The answer lies in the printing methods and production errors that occurred during different runs of the stamp. For example, some 1-cent Washington stamps were produced as part of special booklet or coil issues. These versions often lacked the same perforation on all 4 sides and were printed in smaller quantities. Additionally, stamps from private vending machine companies, such as those modified for the Scherzmack or mailometer machines, often carry unique perforations that make them far rarer and more desirable among collectors. If you own a 1-cent Washington stamp with unusual edge cuts, it's worth having it professionally evaluated, as it could be one of these scarce varieties. Another thing to look out for is the center alignment of the design, known in Philately as centering. A well-centered stamp with equal spacing around all edges is far more desirable than one with the image skewed or cut off by the perforation. Stamps are graded based on centering and condition, with terms like fine, very fine, and superb, and these grades can directly impact the value. A superb mint, never hinged, perfectly centered 1-cent Washington stamp can command significantly higher prices than average quality examples. Additionally, the presence of full original gum on the back, which indicates the stamp has not been used, is a major selling point. Collectors often pay a premium for mint-condition stamps that have been carefully preserved for decades. Now let's talk about the current market for the George Washington 1-cent stamp. In 2025, vintage stamps continue to enjoy a strong and growing collector base. Online marketplaces like eBay, Hipstamp, and Delcamp feature thousands of listings of the Washington 1-cent stamp, ranging from bulk sales of used examples to rare certified mint varieties. Common examples are easy to find and sell for a few dollars, but it's the rare coil types, plate number blocks, and certified errors that fetch the most attention and highest prices. Auctions at respected houses such as Heritage Auctions and Robert A. Siegel auction galleries regularly feature rare examples of the 1-cent Washington with realized prices ranging from $100 to over $1,000, depending on the condition and certification. If you believe you have a potentially valuable version of the Washington 1-cent stamp, the first step is to identify its exact type using a specialized stamp catalog like the Scott Specialized Catalog of United States Stamps. Look at the stamp's perforation measurements, paper texture, color tone, and watermark, if present. Once you've narrowed down its identification, consider getting it professionally certified by organizations such as PSE, Professional Stamp Experts, the Philatelic Foundation, or APS, American Philatelic Society. Certified stamps are far more appealing to serious buyers and are more likely to sell at premium prices. Proper scanning and clear photography also help in listing your stamps on digital platforms. Always show the front and back, and provide any relevant history or previous appraisal documentation. At Stamps Old World UK, we believe that every stamp tells a story. The 1-cent George Washington stamp is not just a piece of paper, it's a link to American heritage, a symbol of early 20th century design and politics, and for some collectors, an item of serious monetary value. Whether your stamp is worth a few dollars or a few hundred, it still represents a rich slice of history. Collecting stamps like the Washington 1-cent gives us a glimpse into the past and reminds us of how nations once communicated, celebrated their leaders, and expressed their values through these miniature works of art. So if you have this stamp in your collection, don't rush to discard it or sell it in a hurry. Take the time to evaluate its condition, research its issue, and consider its story. And if you're just starting out as a collector, let this stamp be the beginning of your journey into a hobby that blends art, history, and real-world value. Next up, the 1-cent George Washington green stamp from the mid-1800s. This stunning piece, with its bold green color and regal portrait of George Washington, is not just a collector's favorite, it's a cornerstone of early American philately. If you've ever come across this stamp in an old album or inherited collection, you may be holding more than just paper. You could be holding a valuable relic of the 19th century. Today, we will explore its origins, its incredible variations, and most importantly, its market value in today's dollars. Whether you're an experienced stamp collector or just curious about the worth of what you found in a drawer, this in-depth guide is for you, right here on Stamps Old World UK. The stamp in focus today is none other than the classic 1-cent George Washington stamp from the 1851 to 1861 issue, known to collectors worldwide as the imperfect green Washington. This stamp features a profile of America's first president in bold engraving, surrounded by laurel leaves and the classic inscription, U.S. postage, at the top and 1 cent at the bottom. Unlike later versions, this early issue is imperfect, meaning it had no perforations along the edges and had to be manually cut from a sheet with scissors or knives. This gives each surviving stamp a unique look depending on how it was cut. Issued originally in 1851, and reissued in slightly modified forms throughout the following decade, this stamp holds historical significance. It reflects a young nation building its communication system and celebrating its founding ideals through the power of printed mail. Now, let's move straight into what everyone wants to know, the value. The market price for the 1-cent George Washington green stamp varies dramatically depending on condition, margin size, paper type, color shade, and most importantly, authenticity. A typical used example with tight or uneven margins may only bring in between $20 to $75, especially if it has a heavy cancellation mark. But if you're holding one in mint and used condition, the value can shoot up to $300 to $800 depending on centering and gum. For a well-centered and used example with full original gum and certification from a recognized grading service like the Philatelic Foundation or PSE, The price can even exceed $1,000 to $3,000 at auction. Incredibly, certain rare plate varieties, re-entries, or stamps with unusual color tones, such as deep blue-green or yellowish-green shades, have been known to sell for over $5,000 when accompanied by expert verification. Collectors also search for specific plating positions, as each position on the original printed plate produced a slightly different look due to the engraving technique. Some positions show doubling or re-entry marks, which are minor engraving flaws that occurred during the plate creation process. These re-entries are highly collectible and can drastically raise a stamp's value. The famous Scott catalog numbers associated with these include Scott number 9 for the 1852 to 1855 version and Scott number 20 for the 1857 re-engraved version with added detail. If you have one of these and it's in good shape, you are potentially sitting on a piece worth several hundred, if not thousands, of dollars. Another major factor in determining value is the margin size. Because these stamps were hand-cut, the size of the white space around the green frame, known as the margin, is very important. Stamps with large, balanced margins on all four sides are significantly more valuable than those cut too close to the design or trimmed into the image. Some stamps were even used in bisects, where they were cut in half and used as half-value postage during times of shortage, and these bisected uses, especially on original envelopes, are highly collectible and command even greater market prices. In 2025, the philatelic market continues to see high demand for early American classics, and the 1-cent green Washington remains one of the most collected and studied stamps in U.S. history. Major auction houses like Robert A. Siegel Auction Galleries, Spink, and Heritage Auctions routinely feature these stamps in their high-profile sales, often accompanied by rich provenance and certificates. It's not uncommon to see top-grade examples of this stamp exceed their estimated value during heated bidding wars. On the other hand, lower-grade or damaged versions are still desirable as fillers for collectors aiming to complete a full classic U.S. set. If you believe you own one of these green 1-cent Washington stamps, your first step should be identification. Carefully examine the stamp under magnification. Look for signs of re-entry in the design, note the exact shade of green, and check for margin balance. Then consult a Scott specialized catalog or seek help from an experienced philatelist. Getting a certificate of authenticity from the Philatelic Foundation, professional stamp experts, or American Philatelic Society can provide assurance of its value and make it more marketable if you decide to sell. Presentation is also important. Place the stamp in a protective mount or transparent sleeve, and make sure to take high-resolution images of both the front and back when listing online or sharing with experts. At Stamps Old World UK, we believe every stamp is more than just ink and paper. It is a reflection of a nation's pride, history, and the human effort to connect across distances. The 1-cent green George Washington stamp is a perfect example, a relic of early American ambition, of artistry, of historical storytelling in miniature form. Whether your stamp is worth $20 or $5,000, the value lies not only in its monetary worth but in its significance as a preserved piece of history. So if you enjoyed this deep dive video and you're excited to learn more about rare stamps from the United States and beyond, don't forget to subscribe to Stamps Old World UK, the 1871-cent Benjamin Franklin stamp. This small piece of paper may look simple at first glance, but behind it lies a fascinating story of American history, postal development, printing technology, and collector demand that continues more than 150 years after it was first issued. In today's video, we will examine the history of the stamp, its design, varieties, rarity, factors that influence value, and most importantly, how much the 1871-cent Franklin stamp can be worth in today's market. The year was 1870, and the United States Post Office Department introduced a completely new series of postage stamps. These stamps are known among collectors as the bank note issues because they were printed by the National Bank Note Company. The 1-cent denomination featured Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers, scientist, inventor, diplomat, and the first Postmaster General of the United States. Franklin's contribution to the development of the American postal system made him a natural choice for appearing on postage stamps. The 1871-cent Franklin stamp was printed in a deep blue color and displayed a detailed portrait of Benjamin Franklin facing left. The engraving work was exceptional for its time and demonstrated the high standards of 19th-century stamp production. The stamp was primarily used for mailing newspapers, printed matter, circulars, and other low-cost postal services. Because of its low denomination, millions of examples were printed and used throughout the country. At first glance, many people assume that a stamp with such a large printing quantity cannot be valuable. However, philately is never that simple. While common examples are indeed affordable, certain varieties, conditions, cancellations, and rare types can command impressive prices in today's market. One of the most important aspects of collecting the 1871 cent Franklin stamp is identifying its different varieties. During its production, several printing plates and paper types were used. Specialists study details such as grill patterns, perforations, shades, paper thickness, and plate characteristics. Some varieties are considerably scarcer than others. This is where collecting becomes both exciting and challenging. The most common variety is generally found with a cancellation mark. Since these stamps were heavily used for everyday postal purposes, most surviving examples today are used copies. A typical used example with average centering and ordinary cancellation can often sell for anywhere between $10 and $50 depending on condition. Better centered examples may bring higher prices. Condition is one of the most important factors affecting value. In stamp collecting, centering refers to how evenly the design is positioned within the perforated margins. A well-centered stamp is significantly more desirable than one with the design touching or cutting into the perforations. Two stamps that appear identical at first glance may have dramatically different market values simply because one is better centered. Collectors also pay close attention to the quality of the perforations. Missing teeth, tears, creases, fins, stains, and repairs can greatly reduce value. On the other hand, a stamp with fresh color, intact perforations, and a clean appearance will attract stronger collector interest and higher prices. Unused examples of the 1871 cent Franklin stamp are much scarcer than used copies. Since most stamps were purchased for postal use, relatively few survived unused. An unused example without gum may sell for several $100s depending on quality. Examples retaining original gum can command even higher prices. Well-preserved mint examples are especially sought after by advanced collectors and investors. Among the most fascinating aspects of this issue are the grill varieties. During the late 19th century, the United States experimented with grills, small embossed patterns pressed into the paper to prevent the reuse of stamps. Certain grill types associated with the 1 cent Franklin issue are significantly rarer than standard examples. Correct identification often requires expert examination, but the rewards can be substantial. Some grill varieties have sold for thousands of dollars at auction due to their scarcity and collector demand. Collectors should also be aware of color shades. While most examples appear blue, specialists recognize various shade differences caused by printing conditions and ink mixtures. Certain shades may be more desirable, particularly when they are clearly identifiable and certified by recognized philatelic experts. Postal history collectors often seek stamps that remain attached to original envelopes or covers. A 1 cent Franklin stamp on a complete cover with an interesting postmark, historical destination, or unusual postal usage may be worth considerably more than a single detached stamp. The story behind the cover can sometimes be more valuable than the stamp itself. Now let us discuss current market values in greater detail. In today's collecting market, a heavily used example in average condition may be worth between $10 and $30. A cleaner used example with attractive centering can often sell for $50 to $150. Fine examples with excellent appearance may reach several $100s. Unused examples can range from several $100s to well over $1,000 depending on condition and gum status. Rare varieties, premium-grade examples, or certified specimens may achieve prices ranging from several $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars. At major philatelic auctions, exceptional examples have achieved remarkable results. Collectors compete aggressively for stamps that combine rarity, outstanding condition, and certification. The difference between an average example and a top-quality example can be enormous. This is why professional grading and expert certificates play an important role in the high-end stamp market. For anyone who discovers an old 1 cent Franklin stamp in an inherited collection, it is important not to make assumptions about value based solely on age. Many old stamps are common, while others may be rare. Careful identification is essential. Details such as grills, paper type, centering, cancellation, and condition must all be evaluated before determining an accurate market value. If you own one of these stamps, consider using a magnifying glass and comparing it with specialized stamp catalogs. Expertization services can also help determine authenticity and identify valuable varieties. A small detail overlooked by a beginner could potentially represent a significant difference in value. The enduring popularity of Benjamin Franklin also contributes to the stamp's appeal. Franklin remains one of the most respected figures in American history, and collectors around the world recognize his importance. As a result, stamps bearing his portrait continue to attract strong interest from both beginners and advanced philatelists. More than 150 years after its release, the 1871 cent Franklin stamp remains an important symbol of American postal history. It connects collectors with a period of rapid national growth, expanding communication networks, and the artistry of classic engraved stamp production. Whether worth a few dollars or several thousand, every surviving example carries a story from the 19th century into the modern world. Next up, the United States 1902 1-cent Benjamin Franklin stamp printed in blue-green color. This classic American stamp is highly collectible and remains a favorite among stamp collectors worldwide. In this video, we will uncover its fascinating history, design, printing details, varieties, rarity, and most importantly, its market value in today's stamp collecting market. The United States 1-cent Benjamin Franklin stamp was issued as part of the famous 1902 definitive series. This series replaced earlier postage designs and introduced fresh portraits of important American historical figures. For the 1-cent denomination, the United States Post Office selected Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers and the nation's first Postmaster General. Franklin's role in establishing and improving postal services across America made him one of the most appropriate individuals to appear on U.S. postage stamps. The stamp was printed in an attractive blue-green shade, a color that gives the issue a distinctive appearance and helps collectors easily recognize it. The engraved portrait of Benjamin Franklin is surrounded by an elegant frame featuring detailed ornamental work. The quality of engraving reflects the exceptional craftsmanship of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing during the early 20th century. Millions of these stamps were produced because the 1-cent denomination was heavily used for postcards, printed matter, newspapers, and other postal services. As a result, many examples survive today. However, not all surviving examples are equal. The value of a stamp depends on numerous factors including condition, centering, cancellation, gum, rarity, and whether it belongs to a special variety. The most commonly encountered examples are used stamps with postmarks. These stamps were applied to mail and subsequently cancelled by postal clerks. A typical used example with average condition usually sells for between $1 and $10. Stamps with clear impressions, attractive centering, and light cancellations may sell for higher amounts. Condition plays an extremely important role in determining value. Collectors prefer stamps with bright original color, sharp perforations, and no tears, creases, stains, or repairs. A stamp with poor centering may only be worth a few dollars, while a perfectly centered example can be worth many times more. This difference often surprises beginners entering the hobby. And used examples are generally more valuable than used copies. Mint stamps that still retain their original gum are especially sought after by collectors. Depending on quality and centering, mint examples may range from $30 to several $100s. Premium quality examples certified by professional grading services can achieve even stronger prices. One fascinating aspect of the 1902 1-cent Franklin stamp is the existence of various printing shades. While collectors often refer to the color as blue-green, specialists recognize slight differences caused by printing batches and ink mixtures. Some shade varieties attract additional collector interest, particularly when accompanied by expert certification. Collectors also search for stamps with unusual postal history. A 1-cent Franklin stamp on an original postcard, cover, or historic envelope may be worth significantly more than a detached stamp. Postal history collectors appreciate items that tell a story about communication during the early 1900s. Covers showing rare destinations, unusual routes, military mail, or special postmarks can command premium prices. Another important factor is grading. Professional grading services evaluate centering, freshness, perforations, and overall appearance. High-grade examples can be worth many times more than ordinary specimens. A stamp that might normally sell for only a few dollars could be worth hundreds if it receives an exceptionally high grade. In today's market, most average used examples of the 1902 1-cent Benjamin Franklin blue-green stamp typically sell for between $1 and $10. Better used examples with strong centering and attractive appearance often sell for $10 to $50. Mint examples commonly range from $30 to $300 depending on condition and gum quality. Exceptional certified examples in superb condition may bring several $100s or even exceed $1,000 when offered at major philatelic auctions. For collectors who inherit old stamp albums, finding a 1902 1-cent Franklin stamp is quite common. However, determining the exact value requires careful examination. Factors such as centering, gum condition, perforations, color, and cancellation quality all influence market value. Never assume that every old stamp is highly valuable simply because of its age. At the same time, never dismiss an old stamp without proper evaluation because small details can significantly affect its worth. More than 120 years after its release, the 1902 1-cent Benjamin Franklin stamp remains an important part of American philatelic history. It represents an era when letter writing and postcards were essential forms of communication. The stamp continues to attract collectors because of its beautiful engraving, historical significance, and affordable entry point into classic United States stamp collecting. Whether your example is worth a few dollars or several $100s, every surviving 1902 1-cent Franklin stamp carries a piece of American postal history. It connects us to a time when handwritten correspondence traveled across cities, states, and continents powered by one small stamp featuring one of America's greatest historical figures. Next up, the Washington Bicentennial 1-cent stamp of 1932. This beautiful green stamp was released to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, the first president of the United States and one of the most important figures in American history. In this video, we will discover the history of the stamp, its design, printing details, collecting varieties, rarity, and its market value in today's stamp market. The year 1932 marked an important milestone in American history. It was exactly 200 years since George Washington was born on February 22, 1732. To honor this occasion, the United States Post Office Department issued a special series of commemorative stamps featuring Washington at different stages of his life. The 1-cent denomination became one of the most widely used stamps in the series because it was intended for everyday postal needs. The stamp features a portrait of George Washington based on historical artwork. Printed in a rich green color, it carries the inscription, Washington Bicentennial, along with the dates 1732 and 1932. The design is both elegant and historically significant, making it a favorite among collectors of United States stamps. Unlike many rare 19th-century stamps, the 1932 Washington Bicentennial 1-cent stamp was produced in very large quantities. Millions of copies were printed and sold throughout the United States. Because of this large production, the stamp remains relatively affordable for most collectors today. However, condition remains extremely important when determining value. Most collectors encounter this stamp in used condition with postal cancellations. Common used examples generally sell for between 25 cents and $3 depending on condition and appearance. Stamps with heavy cancellations, damaged perforations, tears, stains, or creases usually have little premium value. And used examples are more desirable. A mint stamp with original gum and bright color may typically sell for between $2 and $15. Well-centered examples in excellent condition can command higher prices, especially when certified by professional grading services. One of the most important factors affecting value is centering. In stamp collecting, centering refers to how evenly the design is positioned within the perforated margins. A perfectly centered stamp is much scarcer than an average example. Collectors often pay substantial premiums for stamps with exceptional centering and superior eye appeal. Plate blocks and complete sheets are also popular among collectors. A plate block consists of several connected stamps showing the plate number in the margin. These items often sell for higher prices than individual stamps because they provide additional information about the printing process and are scarcer in high-quality condition. Another interesting area of collecting involves first-day covers. These are envelopes bearing the stamp and canceled on the first day of issue. Washington Bicentennial first-day covers remain popular among postal history enthusiasts and can range from a few dollars to considerably more depending on rarity, condition, and cachet design. In today's stamp market, a typical used Washington Bicentennial 1-cent stamp is usually worth between 25 cents and $3. Mint examples often range from $2 to $15. Superb graded examples may sell for $50, $100, or even several $100s when they receive exceptionally high grades from professional certification services. Although it is not considered a rare stamp, its historical importance makes it highly collectible. The stamp represents the celebration of one of America's greatest national heroes and commemorates a major historical anniversary. For many collectors, its significance extends beyond monetary value. If you find a Washington 1732 to 1932 1-cent stamp in an old collection, examine it carefully. Look at the centering, perforations, gum condition, color freshness, and overall appearance. These details can make a substantial difference in value. While most examples are common, premium quality specimens remain highly sought after by advanced collectors. More than 90 years after its release, the 1932 Washington Bicentennial 1-cent stamp continues to be collected and appreciated around the world. Its attractive design, historical significance, and affordable price make it an excellent addition to any stamp collection. Next up, the United States 1-cent George Washington Green Imperfect Stamp. At first glance, this small green stamp may appear ordinary, but it belongs to one of the most collected and studied stamp series in United States postal history. In this video, we will explore its history, design, printing characteristics, rarity, collector interest, and current market value. The stamp features a portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States and one of the most recognizable figures ever depicted on American postage stamps. Washington's image appeared on countless U.S. stamps throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries, but the imperfect issues hold a special place in Philately because they represent an important period of experimentation and development in stamp production. One of the first things collectors notice about this stamp is that it is imperfect. Unlike most stamps that have perforated edges allowing them to be separated easily from a sheet, imperfect stamps were printed without perforations. Postal clerks and customers had to cut or separate them manually. This distinctive feature makes them immediately recognizable and highly interesting to collectors. The green color of the stamp was chosen for the 1-cent denomination, following a long tradition in United States stamp production. The rich green shade, combined with the finely engraved portrait of George Washington, creates a simple yet elegant design that remains attractive more than a century after it was first issued. During the early 20th century, the United States Post Office experimented with both perforated and imperfect stamps. Many imperfect stamps were issued specifically because vending machine and affixing machine companies needed stamps in special formats. As a result, some imperfect issues were produced in smaller quantities than their perforated counterparts, making them more desirable among collectors today. The stamp shown here appears to be an unused example with strong color and clear margins. For collectors, margins are extremely important. Because imperfect stamps were cut from larger sheets, the size and balance of the margins can significantly influence value. Examples with wide, even margins on all four sides are generally worth more than copies with narrow or uneven margins. Condition is one of the most important factors when determining value. Collectors look for fresh color, clean paper, sharp impressions, and the absence of tears, creases, thins, stains, or repairs. Even minor flaws can reduce value, while exceptional examples can command substantial premiums. Another factor affecting value is whether the stamp retains its original gum. Unused stamps with original gum are generally more desirable than those without gum. Professional grading services often certify high-quality examples, and a superior grade can dramatically increase market value. The Washington Franklin series is one of the most complex and studied areas of United States philately. Specialists examine watermarks, paper types, printing methods, shades, and other technical details to identify specific catalog numbers. Two stamps that appear nearly identical to the casual observer may have very different values depending on these characteristics. In today's stamp market, common imperfect 1-cent Washington stamps in average condition often sell for between $5 and $25. Better examples with attractive margins and strong eye appeal may bring between $25 and $75. Premium quality examples with excellent centering, original gum, and professional certification can sell for $100, $200, or even more depending on the exact variety and condition. Collectors around the world continue to seek these stamps because they represent a fascinating chapter in American postal history. They connect us to an era when the United States postal system was expanding rapidly and experimenting with new methods of stamp production and distribution. Although this stamp may seem small, it carries a remarkable story. It reflects the life and legacy of George Washington, the evolution of United States stamp printing, and the enduring appeal of classic philately. More than 100 years after its issue, collectors still appreciate its beauty, history, and significance. Whether your example is worth a few dollars or several $100s, it remains an important piece of American postal heritage. Careful examination by a specialist can help determine the exact catalog number and uncover details that may affect its value. Thank you for watching Stamps Old World UK. If you enjoyed learning about the United States 1-cent George Washington Green Imperfect stamp and its market value today, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another journey into the fascinating world of stamps. Leave a comment below if you own this classic Washington stamp or if there is another stamp you would like featured in a future video. Until next time, happy collecting and keep exploring the treasures of Philately.